Okay, here we go. Part two. So picking up where we left off with predict. So like I said, it's like looking at a crystal ball because you have to kind of guess what's going to happen, but you want to use facts to kind of make your guess. You're not just pulling something out of thin air. So the example I gave was I predict that the garden and seed folks will be twice as big by next year. And the evidence I would provide for that is as we read the book, the garden grew little by little as more people got involved. And we can assume that that will keep happening and more people in the buildings surrounding the garden will get invested. And then the garden is going to get bigger and bigger. So we can make a prediction that it will be twice as big by next year. So the visual I gave you is kind of what you have to do when you predict. So you take what you know and then you make an educated guess about what you don't know, but you're basing it on facts. You're not just kind of being like, I think everybody in Seed Folks is going to die. Like that, there's no evidence for that. Everybody's happy and everybody's working in the garden. So you have to take the things you know and go from there. Next is argument. This one is actually a noun. And this is a type of writing where you show both sides by defending your opinion. So when you have an argument, there's always two sides. You're arguing with somebody else. You've got your opinion, they have theirs. And so they might not be totally wrong, but you think your opinion is better. So typically in an argument, you say, I see what you're saying, but here's why I think this. And here's why I think my side is correct. And that's what happens when you write an argumentative essay. You show both sides, but you show that your side is the stronger side and the better side, and try to get the reader to believe you versus what your opponent would say. So the example sentence I gave you is, you will write an argument essay soon about The Lady or the Tiger, which is the short story that we're reading. And it kind of is very open-ended at the end. If you've already read it, you'll notice that. And you're going to be writing a little bit about what you think would have happened. So you're going to share your opinion, but you're going to show why the other side would have said what they would have said. So the visual for that shows you, and it's a little hard to read. I know it's kind of fuzzy because I had to make it bigger, but you choose your topic, you take a side, and then you pull together your evidence to show your argument. And then you show counter arguments, which are what other people would say. So for example, if I say a hippo is the greatest animal and you think it's the rhinoceros, you might say, look, hippo's great and all, and here's why the hippo's great, but it's not as great as the rhino. And let me tell you why. So you're showing my side of the argument, and then you're proving me wrong. And when you have an argument and you're writing an essay, you have to have support, which is a verb, to give evidence for your argument. You have to support what you're saying. You can't just say, rhinos are the best, the end. You have to make sure that you're supporting that argument in order to convince anybody, because nobody's going to believe you if you don't give evidence. And so the example I gave is, make sure you support your opinion with evidence from the story. So the evidence that you give, you want to make sure it's provable evidence, something that somebody could look up and find out that it's true. You're not just going to make stuff up and say, well, rhinos are the better animal because they're made out of chocolate, which is obviously false. If it were true, they would be the better animal, but they're not. So the visual that I gave you here is, I believe because. So you say, I believe blank. I believe hippos are the better animal, or in your case, rhinos, because blank. Because they don't kill as many people as hippos each year, which is a fair point and a logical argument, and it is true evidence. So I believe because is sort of the structure you use when you're providing that support. So evidence is the noun that you are using when you give support. So these are the facts that you use to support your argument. See how all these words are kind of tying in together? That's because we're going to be using all of them when we talk about writing argument. So the facts that you use to support your argument, for example, you have to have 3 pieces of evidence from the story to support your argument, is the sentence that I gave you to show you how to use the word. But that might actually end up being true. I might ask you when you write your argumentative essay to have 3 pieces of evidence from the story. And that's 3 things that you pull out that are actual facts. You probably know the word evidence if you watch like court shows on TV, or law and order kind of shows, and they talk about evidence using to prove the case. Well, this is the same thing. You need evidence just like you would there, but this evidence is the kind that you pull from the story. So it's a little different. And the visual is, can you prove it? Because that's what you have to do with an argument, is be able to prove it. And the only way to do that is to have actual evidence. So inform is a verb, and it's a different type of writing that we're going to be using as well, and that we've done a little bit with. But this is where you just share some facts. You're not making an argument, just telling somebody something like, hey, here's an informative essay about how to grow tomatoes. And the example sentence I gave you says your essay needs to inform the reader about how to grow tomatoes. And that's just where you would give the facts and explain how it works and, what you need to do to grow a good tomato. You're not trying to persuade me to believe you.